Bitcoin, July 12th. Today, we're going to look not only at Bitcoin's price movement at the start of this week, today is Sunday, but we're also going to check out the best ways to profit from scalping and intraday trading today. And why does such a drastic move like yesterday's happen so often, where we saw this candle with a huge wick that developed in a really short time? We're going to see why this happens and what the consequence is in the subsequent price movement. With all that said, you already know that at the end of the video, we'll do the July challenge, which is the easiest way to make money trading. But for now, let's analyze Bitcoin's price movement. You already know that to study price movement, whether intraday, long-term, or weekly, which is what matters most to us in this type of video, what we need to do is look for the clues left by the big players, because the big players are going to move the price however they want. And what we have to do is simply look for those clues. We don't need to look for complicated indicators or things that only show us past price movements. What we're looking for is future price movement, because that's what really makes money. In any case, you already know that we always set support and resistance levels. That's price action along with the shape of the candles, which is very important, and then with volume. Yes, we do look for those big players. Support and resistance. We have 60,000 and 69,000. That support and those resistance levels are what will determine the price movement this week. We're not going any further. Sometimes we set 52,000 and 74,000, but this time we're only going to use these two. I've also marked the middle of the channel for you, which is exactly where we are right now. You can see that the price always tries to reach that area, and we're seeing a semi-accumulation channel over the weekend, which is what I was telling you about. It's a great time to make a lot of money trading. Well, in any case, we always use the weekly chart. Each candle represents a week, so we can see the Wyckoff phases. In my course, I tell you what the Wyckoff phases are. VSA for the best time to enter. Strategies for both markup and markdown in any market condition or movement. And I'll leave the link in the description with a very significant discount. In any case, in the long term, we are in an accumulation phase. With that in mind, let's drop down to the 4-hour chart, and we're seeing, if we zoom out the price a bit, very well. We can see that since it entered at 69 in this channel, it has been moving back and forth, with the price oscillating as expected. The arrival at the middle of the channel happened over the weekend. You already know that the price tends to pause, and so we're seeing how it's trying to break through that 74,000 zone. Let's add the volume, and now, if we look for the price movement for the start of this week, I'm telling you, today is July 12th, so this is for the whole week. What we're going to see, you saw how a lot of volume came in when the price tried to drop again? At 60, at 61, it turned around. It did this twice and quickly moved to settle in the middle of the channel, which is where, in recent weeks, Bitcoin's price has been feeling very comfortable. Once all that liquidity has been absorbed, which is what the big players want, because as you can see, they're doing it very slowly. Once they absorb all that liquidity, they might catch their breath a little more. But then we'll see the price in the upper zone. That is, I'm talking about between 64 and up, 69. Next week, we'll start talking about that area. We'll start to see retests from the upper zone, and the paradigm will shift a bit. For now, we can only expect it to catch its breath a little in the first few days. But starting from Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we'll already be talking about how the price behaves in this area. That's what we can expect for the coming days. Now, let's move on to what I was telling you about Let's drop down to the 15-minute chart and look at this channel that is formed over the weekend. I told you it was really easy to make money in yesterday's video. If you look at it, once we marked this support and this resistance, this support, it's in the 63,600 area, and the resistance is around 64,500. All right, the way I mentioned yesterday to profit from intraday trading or scalping, this weekend it was simply about waiting for the price to approach the area. It doesn't have to touch the support or resistance exactly, although as you can see, yes, the support is touched quite clearly, but on the other hand, the resistance is only approached. Once you get to that area and start to see some rejection in the Japanese candlesticks, some rejection means seeing a wick or a doji like we've seen here. When we see that, we can enter. If there's some rejection volume, we go short. And do the same once the wicks appear on the lower part. If there's some volume, we can go long. We can do this throughout the whole weekend. Be careful because the weekend ends on Sunday night. No? A lot of times, people think the week starts on Monday morning, but Sunday night already counts. As you know, during the week, Bitcoin's movement develops in two different phases. We could put it that way. One is during the week, which is from Sunday night to Friday afternoon. And the other is the weekend, which is what we're studying now, from Friday afternoon to Sunday night, Spanish time. Very well, we saw that trend yesterday, and today we're going to continue exactly with the same intensity. Also, be careful when it reaches this middle of the channel. I always tell you that whenever a channel forms, the middle area of the channel is important. It's important because many times those elements that signal a price reversal, in other words, a change in direction, happen in the middle of the channel. It goes back to the support and then looks for the resistance again. In this case, that's what we're seeing. Did you notice a lot of volume coming in? Even though the spread is wide, it seems like there's more volume than what would normally match that spread. And we're seeing that it's starting to turn around. Now, it would be a good time to go short, aiming for that support, and then go long again. Keep doing that until Sunday night. Another thing we wanted to look at was this wick, this candle, which happened very quickly. This happens because, for example, a fund, or in the case of a whale that's not related to the movement but simply places their position, entered at a specific moment, right over the weekend. On the weekend, there's less trading volume, so when they place their position, which was a short, meaning they sold, the price dropped very quickly, really fast downward. In this case, these movements, as you can see, have no effect on the strategy of the big players. And once that whirlwind passes, so to speak, that brief storm, the price returns to its normal course, and it keeps doing what we had seen before. In other words, we can understand this as a kind of parenthesis that happens in the price, and since the market is efficient, within a few hours or sometimes just minutes, depending on the chart we're looking at, things return to normal. All right, we've already covered how to make money this Sunday, what we can expect at the start of the week, and now let's see how to earn easily money in trading if you're just starting out. With the July challenge, I started with a $500 account on mexit.com, and every day I make micro trades of $15, now $20 each, because the account is getting bigger and I simply go with the movement. For example, when I see that the movement is clearly going down, I go short. When it's obvious that it's going up, meaning it's a long, I go long. Since these are micro trades, the movement doesn't have to represent a big percentage, a large one. To participate in this challenge, what I do is hold a giveaway. Well, I'll show you yesterday's trade so you can see how I did it. Since I hit the TP, which is the take profit that MexDay sets, to participate in the profits that I raffle off on the last day of July, all you have to do is sign up on the exchange I always use, which is mexday.com, and make your first deposit. That way, you're entered into the raffle for those profits. If I end up with $800, well, $800 minus $500, the remaining $300 gets raffled off. Right now, as you can see, the account is at $727. I'm Akil Vasquez. This is the Daily Bitcoin Analysis. I really appreciate you watching this video, and as I always say, this is not financial advice. I'm just sharing my experience with you after more than 15 years in professional trading. Stay alert for tomorrow's movement, because as you know, we're switching things up, so to speak. We're leaving the weekend behind and heading into 3 weeks where we'll see a lot of changes, a lot of clues you need to pay close attention to. See ya.